Hello all, it's DVJ. You're playing a game, maybe ancient Japan, and you tell the player character, the daimyo sends agents to attack you. They draw their swords and surround you, ready to strike. Player character, what do? The player character tells you, I remain kneeling, my eyes closed in meditation as I slow my heart, ready to strike, my sword laying on the ground before me. As a game master, what do you decide? Are they blind because their eyes are closed? Are they prone because they're kneeling? Are they at a disadvantage and disarmed because they don't have their sword? Or do you take the position that, well, I'm just going to ignore the rules for this player character? Or is this just a matter of actually not doing either one? This is just rules application. And that although the rules say that yes, the character's eyes are closed, yes, they are kneeling, and yes, they do not have their sword in their hand, that this is just a story descriptor, an immersive element in the story that your player character is entrusted in you as a game master, and that this is just a minor yet significant storytelling moment, and that you don't apply any of those disadvantages to the player character because they trusted you. Now, I put this as a question because if you know any of my videos, you know that I side along the side of cinematic narrative storytelling elements, and that if a player were to tell me, as a samurai in a world, even if it's hyper realistic, even if it's hyper deadly like Legend of the Five Rings, L5R, that they told me that they had their eyes closed and were meditating, and that they were kneeling, knowing that enemies were coming after them, and that their sword lay before them before they were to pick it up, that the player entrusting their activity, that them playing their character, immersing themselves into this world, giving me the trust to know that I will not abuse my authority as the game master to enforce the rules and to apply the rules and adjudicate the rules, but allow this storytelling element to take place and allow them to just make an initiative roll, draw the sword, jump up, and attack however many people are attacking them. This is a short video because I was the end of one of my other videos. I was interrupted by my loving wife as the phone rang, and I usually put the phone on mute or vibrate. But I say this because we often, us as RPG community, often get in arguments about rules as written, rules lawyers versus rulings over rules, and ignoring the rules and changing the rules whenever we feel like it. And I feel there's a third position in all of this matter, and that is just rules application. You know, the fine art, this fine, intricate, spur of the moment balance of when to apply the use of the rules and when not to. And a lot of that has to do with the theme and the setting. So, for example, I talked about a samurai kneeling down with his eyes closed and a sword before him. And there is a sword art called Aijutsu, which is the actual art of drawing a sword quickly. And I'm sure this game, whatever game system that this player game master is running, has that skill involved. But in this setting, would applying blindness and being prone and being disarmed to a player character who chose to do those things be appropriate at that moment? I would say no. Simply because in order to advocate trust in my players, they trust that I will make a proper judgment concerning the minutia of the rules. Were the player character to be struck blind, I would apply the blindness. Were the player character to be knocked down prone, I would apply the prone disadvantage. Were they to be disarmed, I'd apply the disarmed advantage. If during the combat, because now combat hasn't started, if during the combat the player says, well, I'm going to throw my sword down, then I would say, well, you are disarmed. You don't have your sword. If the player character were to say, well, I'm being overrun and I'm going to run and jump underneath the home, it's on stilts, and I'm going to crawl underneath it, then I would say, well, you're prone now. But this, what I would have considered a player character making a storytelling element of investing in my world and my setting, that they are willing to suffer the consequences of me giving them a disadvantage, that I then would not take advantage of their vulnerability, both mechanically and immersively as a player. A player that chooses to create a story element that purposefully gives them a disadvantageous element in the story, although may be appropriate for a particular element. Let's say a player character plays a character and they are rude to a king, knowing full well that they will be punished. Then I feel that it is my job to then say, well, this player character has given me energy. They've given me something. They've given me a story. They've given me something undefinable, but absolutely game immersive worthy. Then I, in return, as a game master, while applying the rules, will say, well, in this particular situation, it is worth not punishing them because they trust me. They have included a story element, something memorable. They've added something to their character that other player characters will see. This is an event that may echo through the rest of the gaming world. Other people who are innocents that are viewing this combat will take notice of it. And this player character may become legendary for what they've done. And it may prove that they are engaging in their character, yes. So I say to those who have arguments with rules as written versus rulings over rules, that don't forget this third element, rules application. That no matter how complicated your rule system is, and L5R as an example can be have its set of rules. GURPS is another one that has a large set of rules. You can pick any game that may be complex in nature, that it is not the rules maybe that someone likes or dislikes, or it is not the rules that maybe your players hate or despise that you use. Maybe it's the application of those rules, when to use them and when not to use them. Now, as I mentioned before about theme, maybe using that blind and prone and disarmed in a noir setting might be perfectly reasonable. It's a harsh and brutal setting, and we're going to apply all those rules. But I would say to you that if you are not playing something like one of the numerous Cthulhu settings, more realistic, more noir, hard-boiled, crime-ridden, ultra survivalistic or brutal, that I would say to you, understand the setting, understand that your actions as a GM reverberate to your players and vice versa, and that it is not the rule, the book, that may be the problem, but it may be yourself. Now, you may think that I'm pointing blame, but believe you me, I am not free of guilt. I've played many games and run many games and made a ton of mistakes. And believe you me, one of those mistakes, I actually got punched in the eye by my foster brother. For real, for real. I had a hairline fracture on the side of my face. It was pretty bad. I was I loved it because I was out of school for 6 months because it had to heal. There was a chance that the bone, if it didn't heal correctly, might pierce my not the retina, but the the sac, the membrane that holds the fluid in the eye. Anyway, I loved it, but I was out of school for a while, and I got a lot of things done when I was in high school and whatnot. But anyway, samurai kneeling. How would you adjudicate it? And don't agree with me if you don't feel that you need to agree with me. I would love any kind of feedback from all of us many vloggers out there. We haven't had a ton of VRs lately that I've noticed, not on my feed anyway. Maybe for some reason I'm not picking that stuff up. But I'd love some discussion on rules as written, rulings over rules, and what I'm considering a third element to this, which is rules application. So anyway, DBJ, thanks guys, and I'm out.